today's event. So just be mindful in case you don't want your face to show up in the recording or your voice. That's totally okay. But we are recording so that way people can engage with the workshop later on. So let me go ahead and share my screen now. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Beautiful. Alrighty, so today's workshop is Healing Through Spoken Word Poetry with Miss Ayevee. As I mentioned, we are the Office of Student Diversity and Social Justice. Our mission is to advocate with a diverse student population to amplify and affirm students' identities through an intersectional framework to promote student success. We are a student-centered office committed to educating, empowering, and developing UNLV students as leaders to recognize and address societal injustices. So that is our goal. We do have our vision and values also up on this slide. So you're gonna get to know like what is our end goal here. So SDSJ will provide transformative experiences to create a campus free of oppression and trauma through intentional engagement. And our values are student-centered, advocacy, intersectionality, empowerment, trauma-informed, and community. Before we get started with the actual event itself, we do want to start with a land acknowledgement. So we acknowledge that we are on the ancestral lands of the Nuobi Southern Paiute people. We acknowledge the indigenous people of the lands where UNLV now stands and recognize that these have always been places of teaching and learning. I wish to pay respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge the important role Nuobi Southern Paiute people continue to play within the UNLV community. This acknowledgement and the Center of Native Peoples is a start as we move forward for many years to come. I do also want to go over some community agreements so that way we can all have a really productive and positive experience in this space. So some things that I wanted to mention were one mic. So make sure that if someone else is talking, to not talk over them. Make sure that you are all also muted. And then unmute yourself as you wish to speak. So that way we don't have a lot of different distractions with different noises. Stories stay, lessons go. So some people may be sharing some personal things in this space. So we want to make sure to honor that. So we do want to respect their privacy. You can always talk about the lesson that you learned from that, but make sure to not go and tell other people's personal stories that they shared in this space. Take space and make space. So it's really important to think about how you're engaging in the space. If you feel like you're taking up too much space, maybe take a step back so others can be more engaged in the workshop. And also if you feel like you haven't really engaged at all, maybe you challenge yourself to take up a little bit more space. And at the end of the day, it really is up to you how you would like to engage. So there are no rules. We just want to make sure to be mindful of how we are taking up space. Be mindful of language, so make sure you're using appropriate language. Challenge assumptions, so sometimes some people may say things that maybe feel like an ouch in the moment, so maybe ask more for clarification rather than just judging what you think they meant. Be present and engaged, that is very much up to you all, what that means. But try to be as present in the workshop. Ms. Ayevee is a really engaging speaker, so I have no doubts that this is going to be a very engaging workshop. So just be sure to try to be as present as possible. Ask questions. We do have the chat box as mentioned, and you can also unmute yourself if you'd like, or you can raise your hand. There is that option. Also engaging, if you all see there's like some reactions at the bottom of your screen that you can choose to use as well, where you can clap or thumbs up or things like that if you would like to engage that way. Respect identities and pronouns. So make sure that we are respecting everybody's pronouns that they use. I forgot to mention my name. So hello, everybody. My name is Alex Romero. I'm the Latinx Program Coordinator, and I use he, him as pronouns. So make sure to, when you introduce yourself or when you speak, we would prefer that you say your name and your pronouns so everybody can address you appropriately. Lean into discomfort. So sometimes the conversation may feel a little uncomfortable. We don't want you to be in the level of being really stressed out about the conversation, but if you feel a little bit uncomfortable, maybe just challenge yourself to lean into it. But as I mentioned before, the way you engage in this space is honestly up to you. And lastly, use gender inclusive language. So make sure that we aren't using gender language in this space. That was a lot. And I hope that this really, really helps us have a really productive and positive experience in this space. Thank you all again for joining us for Healing Through Spoken Word Poetry. Just a little bit about Miss Ayevee. So Miss Ayevee, a poet and spoken word artist, was born and raised in Las Vegas, but comes from a long line of New Yorkers. Born into a broken family, Ashley Vargas began to channel her inner struggles into poetry by the age of 8. She excelled in school and received a full scholarship to UNLV for performance theater and was a Dean's List recipient for academic achievement. Miss Ayevee attributes her resilience and power to being raised by a single mother and grandmother who always encouraged her to follow her dreams. So everybody give a round of applause to Miss Ayevee, and then we'll stop sharing real quick. And Miss Ayevee, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here right now, just with you all and during this month. So, first and foremost, happy Black History Month to everyone. I am very, very grateful to hold space again. My name is Miss AV, she, her pronouns. And, I am a poet. I'm a person who really values words and values honesty and authenticity in expression. So today, those are really going to really kind of be the foundation of what our workshop is going to be on today. So many of us, I think, try to maybe tell half of our experience, or if it feels a little, we talked a little bit about being uncomfortable, so we will tend to kind of shave off those sharp edges of our experiences so that other folks perhaps do not press judgment on us, right? Pass judgment on us, or maybe we don't want to dive into our own trauma, and all of these things are valid, and we have a place for that. But today, I really do ask you to give yourself permission to be very authentic in your writing today and in our interaction, understanding that this is designed to be a safe space, and this is designed to be a supportive place. So, in these experiences that we come into, especially when we get into our writing prompts, really just remember it's okay to be authentic, it's okay to tell the truth, and your experiences are valid and they do exist and they did happen, and you don't have to change the narrative for yourself until you're ready to. Okay, so I just want you to know that, and that we're all here for you as well. So I also want to thank UNLV and the Student Diversity and Social Justice Office for helping to facilitate and put together this incredible opportunity for us all to connect and hopefully grow quite a bit in today's poetry session. This workshop will be broken down into 3 separate parts, consisting of, firstly, we're going to get into content creation and exploration. So for any of you that have, ran into, the dreaded writer's block and all those sort of things, hopefully today we'll be able to give you some kind of tricks to be able to get through that with the use of writing prompts. We'll get into that a little bit later. So we're going to be focusing specifically on a form of poetry called pontoon. I'll give you a little more information about that a little later on, but I think it's going to be very exciting. And lastly, we're going to open the floor up for a bit of a group share for us to be able to share some of the poetry we created today, and ending with a poetry performance from myself. So I'm very excited again. So I'm going to have a couple of those geeked out moments where you guys are just going to have to deal with me. I giggle, I laugh. And I just really show my emotions. So, I'm really excited to be here because it's all over my face. And I hope that you are too. I think that it's really important to be proud of everything that we do. My mom raised me that, you really got to give 110% of everything you are and what you do and really be proud of it. And if there's ever a moment you're not proud, then you shouldn't be doing it. So I am super excited to be here and it's beaming, and I'm proud of that. And I think it's going to be really great. So we are going to be actually writing today. So I want you to get your notebooks, your iPads, your computers, or even, your note app on your phone, whatever is most comfortable for you. Please go ahead and get that, have that handy, because hopefully we're going to be creating some poems today that you're going to be able to have with you and maybe even inspire you to continue to write with the tools that you will receive today. Um, so when I was talking about writing prompts, I just want to give you the straight up definition of what I mean when I say a writing prompt. So straight from the dictionary, a writing prompt is a brief passage of text that provides a potential starting point for a poem, lecture, essay, etc., etc. Okay, so these are things to just kind of get those creative juices flowing, and sometimes we can get just that spark of inspiration, and we could just write a whole book right then and there. That does happen. A lot of times it does not. A lot of times we're like, oh my gosh, what is this next sentence? Let alone what is this next chapter of what I'm writing, right? So the writing prompts are going to really assist us. So for these writing prompts, I really want to dive into the not just, well, today it's Black History Month, so we're diving into the Black diaspora. But when we talk about Black diaspora, we're really talking about a very wide reaching kind of grouping of experiences. So this isn't specific to African American culture or even just African culture in itself. Almost every culture across the globe has Black folks. And with that, we have shared experiences. So that's really what we're focusing on today, and by channeling that through the lens of colorism. So when I'm talking about colorism, what I literally mean is prejudice or discrimination against individuals with darker skin tones. And here's the real important part, folks, typically among people of the same ethnic or racial group, also known as shadeism. So with this, what we are talking about is how people are perceiving us, how people interact with us, or the experiences that we have with folks because of the color of our skin, or even how we have treated other people based on the color of their skin. So this workshop is for anyone who identifies as Black, person of color, Indigenous, allies, and everything in between. So, in the past with these workshops, we have definitely had allies come in who wanted to be able to interact in a more productive way with people of color, to acknowledge perhaps how they have even perpetuated colorism in their own life, as well as dealing with the trauma of experiencing colorism. So this is wide reaching. Again, this isn't just a one size fits all. This isn't any sort of place of judgment or a place of you don't belong. We all belong here, and it is very beautiful to be able to share this space and share this energy with anyone who wants to come, who wants to learn, and wants to grow. So please keep that in mind, especially when we get into the group share. All of our experiences are valid here, and we want to just make sure that we are holding that space for everyone who would like to participate. So, I am so excited to be able to, talk about my experiences as an Afro Latina. I am Puerto Rican. My family is also all Puerto Rican. From Puerto Rico by way of New York City. So we have lots of different experiences, also coming from an immigrant background, a lot of things, a lot of testimonies, a lot on this journey to come to this point right now to where, I'm a literary artist. I'm helping to facilitate a workshop at a university, from an immigrant family, a mother who never graduated high school, to be here. I think that it's important for us to understand that we all have journeys, and for us to be here right now in this moment, it has been victorious. So just know that as we go into this, and might be able to, touch on some things that that could hurt. Right? There are some of those, aspects of our experiences that might not be pleasant, but hopefully, we'll be able to dive into those and help to shift our perspective in them so that we can get that silver lining, right? So the goal for today is by sharing our authentic experiences, being able to find the silver lining, and change our personal narrative to an empowering success story. And I think that that's really important, with our all of our stories going forward. I think one of the most powerful pieces of writing advice I ever got was from the first Clark County Poet Laureate, Bruce Isaacson, and he told me, "Don't forget to tell your victory stories." That we dive into everything, but don't forget the victories. And I feel like that is golden right there. So when we're getting into writing now, I have three different prompts for you, and so the prompts are designed to help those gears go, to get our mind going, and to help to flush out content that is authentic and meaningful to us. Because sure, we can put some sentences together and we can make a poem, but is it going to mean something to you? Is it going to have an impact on you? My poetry tends to be very raw, to the point, sometimes in your face. And I do that because I feel like certain stories just need to be told. They don't need to be watered down. They don't need to be softened. So I'm taking a little bit of that into our writing prompts. And, this is an opportunity for you to be able to take that either which way you want. You could divulge a little bit, you can divulge a lot, whatever is most comfortable for you. This isn't a competition. It's always about progression, not perfection. So, even if this is the first time you're talking about these things and you get three sentences out, those are going to be amazing because it's a huge deal for you. So just keep that in mind. And just in general, I know things can be serious, but we're going to try not to take ourselves too serious today. This isn't a dissertation or, a master's class. This is really just about getting that creativity flowing, giving us a form to be able to flow into and to see what can be created, right? We can always go back later on and be able to dive more into the stricter forms of poetry if that's what you're desiring. But for today, let's just get the wheels going. Let's get that energy, that creativity flowing, and have a cool little poem at the end of this, okay? So let's get into these writing prompts, folks. So please go ahead and get your writing tools ready for you. And I'm going to go ahead and give you the first prompt, okay? So our first prompt is describe your first experience or your most memorable experience of colorism. So again, first prompt, describe your first experience or your most memorable experience of colorism. Okay, so I'm really only looking for one paragraph here. So anywhere from 3 to 5 sentences. So we want to try to keep it concise, but also authentic. So going back, for anyone who just came into the room, colorism is prejudice or discrimination against individuals with darker skin tones, typically among people of the same ethnic or racial group, also known as shadeism. So for this first writing prompt, I would like you to write one paragraph um, describing your first experience or just an experience that comes to your mind of where you remember being treated differently because of the shade of your skin, or perhaps witnessing someone being treated some kind of way based on their shade of skin, or even you treating someone differently based on their color of skin. Okay, I'm going to give you folks about 5 minutes to be able to write. And again, I just let it free flow. You don't have to really edit yourself too much during this time. It's important when you're in this creative process and you're flowing that you're not also editing. There will be a time for that, but right now is just the time for writing. Okay, so I'm going to put on a little bit of music like I had on before. There we go. I'm going to turn that up. So we have 5 minutes for our first writing prompt. Describe your first experience of colorism. Okay, we have about 1 minute left. Go ahead and finish up that final thought, that final sentence. Okay, that's 30 seconds. Okay. Pause our music here. Okay, folks, go ahead and finish that thought. So again, that first prompt was describe your first experience of colorism or most memorable experience if you can't remember that first one. So how did that feel? You guys can go ahead and tap into the chat, or even if you want to unmute yourself. I just kind of want to know what that felt like to even kind of go into that. Oh, I love it. Thank you, Doris. 5th grade, 1970, being allowed to go in my friend's house because their parents thought I was Black until they explained to them in Spanish that I was Puerto Rican, and all of a sudden it was okay. So that was the first time I had even questioned, am I Black? Am I not Black? Like, what does that even mean? Like, you know, so that was a big thing, you know, and a big conversation when I got home that day to talk to my mother about that. So, you know, that was crazy. Thank you so much for sharing this workshop and being able to bring awareness, right, to how big and how widespread of an issue, of an experience that these can be, because even those microaggressions, those are the ones that we carry with us, right? That, you know, we don't know that are just like black and white. It's all of this gray area in between, but we carry those with us. Those moments of not being able to sit on a certain side of class and not understanding why. And all these years later, that's still having that impact, right? Or someone questioning if I was Black or not, and that being whether I can go in a house or not, you know, based on how I looked, you know, and that was in the 90s. So very, very widespread. So I'm so grateful. Thank you all so much for sharing. Okay, and Erica says, absolutely. You know, I was a competitive swimmer for many, many years and had many conversations just like that with my family members about needing to wear more sunscreen and if I wanted to continue to have that job because my skin would just continue to get darker. And, you know, it's again that microaggression of them not actually saying it's bad to have darker skin, but the implication was most certainly there, right? You felt it. It was the elephant in the room in those conversations. Thank you all so very much for sharing. Those are really incredible testimonials. So if anybody else has, you know, more stuff that they would like to share, definitely jump in the chat. And now we're going to go into our second prompt. Right? So we dove into these experiences. We're kind of recalling them, how they felt, what happened. So now as we go into prompt two is, if you could change anything about that experience, what would it be? So prompt 2, if you could change anything about that experience, what would it be? So we're really giving ourselves permission to look at that and change it, right? In this space, in this time, what would we wanted to change or shift or have that interaction be so that it could be more beneficial to us, maybe that we would have felt more comfortable, however you would like to do that. So we're going to go ahead and take some more time again to do that. We're going to give you 5 minutes, okay, folks? So again, second prompt, if you could change anything about that experience that we described in prompt 1, our first experience of colorism, what would it be? what would you change about that experience? So I'll go ahead and give you folks 5 minutes. Again, you're already being so authentic and honest. Let's just continue to do that, right? In this world of we could change anything, what would we change about that experience? Okay.
Hey, Miss Avie, can you hear me?
Yes.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
could you repeat the prompt again, just so I'm clear?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Okay. So for prompt number 2,
mhm,
it is, if you could change anything about your experience,
mhm,
what would it be? So the experience that we described in our first prompt, if there was anything about that experience that you felt that you wish you could have changed,
mhm.
what was that?
Okay. And then could I add my first prompt and then the second, because I didn't really get to talk about my.
Sure. Would you like to tell me your first prompt right now?
Um,
Or you're saying you want to write them both right now?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, absolutely,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay.
Finish that first prompt and you can go right into the second one.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for your question. Okay, we have 1 more minute. Thank you so much to the folks. As you finish, you're putting it in the chat. Wonderful. 1 more minute, folks. All right, about 30 seconds. I want you to complete that last sentence. that final thought, start to wrap that up. Okay. Thank you folks so much. I love seeing all of you writing, so engaged. It's really great to see. So first off the bat, we had Jennifer jump in the chat. I wish I had a deeper knowledge back for, you know, as we continue to move forward and as we continue to be able to have spaces where we can discuss this, we are being able to understand more, get that deeper understanding, and also get the tools to be able to educate not only ourselves, but be able to educate other folks, you know, to be able to have those conversations with our personal friends, with our families, to be able to have a more productive conversation at those dinner tables, right? Instead of just kind of idly, just quietly listening to, you know, all of these things that we may not even know how to address. So thank you so much, Jennifer. If anyone else would like to jump in the chat, please feel free. I'll go ahead and share what I wrote. I said, my skin color doesn't matter. I am my own person, not my color. So I definitely, you know, wished at that moment that that's what mattered. You know, am I a good person? Am I a good friend? You know, that it wasn't just literally based on what I look like and not being given access to something all my friends were being given access to because they were lighter than me. So, all right. Oh, love it. Thank you, everybody. Jennifer also said, I often wondered if there was more available back then, would be where would we be as a society today? Absolutely, right? If we were able to make those leaps and bounds back then, how would that ripple effect? How would that affect where we are today? Absolutely. And Carlos said, when I was, wow, how brave, you know, as a child to even be able to understand that that wasn't right, that no one has the right to say stuff like that to you, especially someone, right, in an authoritative position like a teacher, you know, that you're supposed to be able to feel comfortable with. And it's like, geez, you can't even say your name without someone putting some sort of prejudice or colorism on that just based on what your name is. Wow. So thank you so much. And I am very, you know, appreciative to your response as well of just, you know, being like, you know what, I didn't have to change anything. You know, I liked how that went and how you were able to overcome that in that moment. So that was really great. Thank you so much. Okay. So jumping back into the chat, man, so you really wanted that to be more of a learning experience, right? Not just having the that trauma of being scared and shocked and having to just run away, right? Which is totally valid at that time. How are you supposed to know how to deal with that? So I can definitely understand, like, you know, wanting to change it in that way. You know, that would have been a much more powerful experience, I think, if you were able to have had that. Thank you so much for sharing. Would anybody else like to share before we go into our final writing prompt? Okay, so our final writing prompt is, who have you become because of it? Now, some of you have already answered this through your answers, but the final prompt, who have you become? So basically what I'm asking is, because of that experience that you had, you know, and how you digested that and how you looked at that, how has that kind of reverberated in your life to be the person you now are today in this workshop? Okay, so because of that experience, who have you become today? Basically, how has that affected who you are now? Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes for our final prompt one more time. Who have you become because of that experience? okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and give you 5 minutes. Go ahead and start now. Okay, we have 1 more minute. Go ahead and wrap up that final thought, that final sentence. Thirty seconds. Okay. Thank you, folks, again. for your attentiveness for this exercise. You folks continue to just engage and inspire me every time I do this. So I am just so grateful. So now we're answering that question. Who have you become because of that experience that we described in prompt 1? So that experience of colorism. Who have you become since then? So thank you, Jennifer, for jumping in the chat. So Jennifer said able to take that personal accountability and that desire to learn more and that, initiative. That's really what it is. Like, and the bravery to have these conversations with our friends and our family. That is how we become better allies. That is how we shape a more loving dynamic in the world that we exist in. So thank you so much, Jennifer, for that. Doris said, intentional to love one another, no matter who they are or where they come from, raised that way. Love it. Absolutely beautiful. Jennifer also adding, exactly, it is no point in blaming others. We have to change others. We have to change others, not blame others. I can definitely, agree with you there. And Carlos tapping in saying, I feel like I've become a leader to some people by speaking up. Oftentimes people stay quiet and don't speak up because they're afraid they'll be labeled a snitch. And there's nothing wrong with speaking up and standing up for others when someone's doing or saying something wrong. Absolutely. I really appreciate that, Carlos. And I love kind of this thread, right? Of because of those experiences, we feel empowered to now talk about those experiences and to be able to almost kind of like it put a fire of bravery in us, right? That because we experienced that, we want to help other people not to have experienced that. So I definitely appreciate it. Okay, no problem. So prompt 1, so just real briefly, we went over 3 prompts today. The first prompt was describe your first experience of colorism. Describe your first experience of colorism. And the second prompt was, if you could change anything about that experience, what would it be? And going into prompt 3, who have you become because of that experience? So I appreciate you all, and even, the late covers coming in. I appreciate you too. And I do believe we will be able to have this workshop for you to be able to run back at a later date. So don't worry, you definitely can still jump in and and enjoy the rest of the workshop and be able to catch up a little bit later. So just to share what I wrote, I have become a woman of substance and a champion of justice. I exist and I am here to give voice to the voiceless. And I think that wouldn't have happened. I think that, me really being an advocate for Afro-Latinidad would not exist had I not experienced so much colorism in my life and continue, to be honest. I continue to experience colorism often. But now I feel very empowered to educate people instead of demeaning them or, being angry and losing my cool, because you really can't fight fire with fire. So being able to find ways to express our bravery in a way that is productive, right? That's what we want to do. When nobody's getting anything done if we're just yelling at each other. So being able to find those ways to educate folks instead of belittling them is really the key. So I really appreciate you all jumping in the chat. Oh, no problem. I'm so glad that folks have been able to check in, even if it was for a short time, whether they had to leave early or they came late. Look, we're all here and we're all familia. So I'm so glad that we were able to spend time. And I'm really excited just about all the responses that we had, for those response to our prompts. You all were really brave and really authentic, and that inspires me. every moment of everyday authenticity. So thank you all so much. So we did that, right? So it's like, okay, so we did these prompts. Now, if you didn't realize it, folks, you just created content. You just created things to turn into a poem, right? And you didn't even feel like that, right? You didn't feel like I'm writing a poem right now. No, it's really about just diving into our experiences, letting it flow out, that creative process, right? We're just letting it flow out. We're just focused on like one prompt at a time or one subject at a time. And we're just kind of doing like a mental dump, right? Like I was thinking about this experience, let me mentally dump it out here. And then we can go back and look at it. And I think maybe some of us, you know, were a little surprised at what we were able to express, and maybe some details about, you know, that event that maybe we haven't thought about in a really long time, and maybe not even ever. So congratulations. You definitely got content. So now we're going to shift into our second portion of this, which is formatting. Dun, dun, dun. And I say that because this can be at times the most difficult part of the creation process, right? Because we're like, what do I do with these words? Where do I put them? How do I make it beautiful? Like all of these things can definitely be a challenge. But today, I'm giving you a format that's going to be really cool and easy for you to be able to kind of like plug in the stuff that you already created. So the poem form that we're going to be using today is called pontoon. So I'm going to read you the definition, and then I'm going to share my screen so you can see exactly what we're going to do, okay? So pontoon is a poem of any length composed of 4-line stanzas, in each which the second and the fourth line of each stanza serve as the first and third line of the next stanza. The last line is usually the same as the first. So I'll read that one more time. A pontoon is a poem of any length composed of 4-line stanzas, in which the second and fourth line of the stanza is used as the first and third line of the next, and the last line is the same as the first. So basically, we're repeating a lot of lines, right? So we'll have 6 lines that repeat in different intervals to create a poem. So this was initially made in the 15th century in Malaysia, and it has really, in the modern times, really kind of caught on like a wildfire, especially in the West now, where, you know, we're really kind of putting our own spin on it. It's very similar, for my literary folks, it's very similar to a villanelle in terms of just the type of form poetry. You know, and you could go on and look a little more into that if you're wanting to dive. I actually learned this in a poetry workshop at the Women of the World Poetry Slam in Dallas, Texas, about 4 years ago, and I fell in love with it. My next book will actually be all pontoons, so I'm really excited to be able to share this with you today. So I'm going to go ahead and share this with you. Okay, let's select a photo. Boom. Okay, done. Okay. All right, folks. So can everybody see my screen share right now? Just want to make sure we can all see it.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is the pontoon format. It's a little bit easier to just look at it like this. And also if you're looking for spelling of pontoon so that you can do a little more research later on, this is exactly how it goes. So basically we had 3 prompts, right? And we had at least, you know, we had 2 to 3, 5, you know, 1 paragraph per prompt. So now what I would like you to do is for each prompt, so the writing you did already, I want you to choose 2 lines from each prompt. So 2 sentences from each prompt. So prompt number 1, describe your first experience of colorism. I want you to pick 2 sentences from that that are the most meaningful to you. If you can't decide, just pick the first two. That's totally fine. And we're going to do that again with the second and the third prompt. So the second prompt, if you could change anything about that experience, what would it be? So we want 2 sentences from that. And then finally, the third prompt, who have you become because of it? Our final 2 lines will come from that prompt. And guess what, folks? Those 6 lines will create your entire poem. I told you, you created the content. You didn't even realize you were writing a poem, right? That's the best. That's the best part of it. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this format up there so that you can, it's easy reference for you to look at. Okay. So again, 2 lines from prompt 1. That'll be line A and B. 2 lines from prompt 2. That'll be line C and D. And 2 lines from prompt 3, which will be lines E and F, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and give you folks some time to kind of plug these in, okay? So I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to be able to do that, okay? And you could always, you know, if you have any questions, you can always unmute yourself or jump in the chat. But take a look at the format that we have that I'm sharing on the screen share with you right now. And you just are essentially plugging in, right? Plugging in those 2 lines from prompt 1, line A and B, plugging in from prompt 2, which is C and D, plugging in from prompt 3, which is E and F, okay? So 2 lines from each prompt, and that is going to create your poem. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes. If you haven't already, go ahead and start doing that. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Erica. Exactly right. So Erica did a brief breakdown in the chat. And let's go ahead and write this poem. Okay, we have 1 more minute. Okay, 30 seconds. Just finishing on mine too. Okay, wonderful, everyone. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take the screen share off. So if you haven't, you can go ahead and just screenshot this so that you have it for yourself if you want to do that. So go ahead and do that now if you'd like to screenshot. I will definitely let you know who the song is. Absolutely. Go ahead and do that screenshot, folks, if you would like to take that format of the pontoon with you so that you can, use it with other pieces of your writing. And I'll show you exactly how to do that in my poetry performance as well, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and take that. Well, before I take the screen share off, I'm gonna let the folks know about the song that I've been playing. Okay, it is called Morena by Chala Oba. Okay, boom, there you go. Oops, I kind of said that to Erica directly. Let me say it to everyone. Sorry, everybody. Copy. There we go. Boom. All right. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm back. How did you guys feel about that? That was really exciting. I even wrote my own poem with the prompts as well. So I hope you folks really enjoyed that. So I'm going to share my poem with you. And then if anybody is open, I would love for you to unmute yourself and read your poem. So if you would like to share your poem out loud, please just let me know in the chat and we'll just go through the list of folks who would want to do it, okay? Just so we can make sure everybody can be heard. If you would like to share your creation out loud, unmuting yourself. You don't have to put the video on if you don't want, but I would love to verbally hear your poem. Words are power, and that is the power of spoken word, and how it can help us to heal is to literally hear these things out loud and outside of ourselves. So if you would like to share your piece with us, please let me know in the chat. You could literally say, I would, or hey me, or I'm down, whatever you would like to do. Go ahead and do that in the chat. And I'm going to share with you my poem, okay? So it reads, I wasn't allowed in because of my skin. My skin doesn't matter. I am my own person. Because of my skin, I am a woman of substance. I am my own person. I exist. I am a woman of substance. My skin doesn't matter. I exist. I wasn't allowed in. And that was my poem. So wow, I thought that came out really beautiful. And the thing with this, thank you for the little claps. I see you guys. I think what's really exciting about this type of poetry and this form is it's kind of a gift to yourself every time, because you don't really know when you do it this way, you don't really know what the end product is going to be, which I think is really exciting and really helps us to get out of our own way. A lot of times, we can't help it. We self-edit, right? We're trying to create, we're trying to do these things, but we're self-editing all the time. So we want to not do that. So it kind of helps to do that. So I do, okay, let's see. Okay, does anybody else want to share? Because if not, then we're just going to go into to my poetry, and I'll share some other examples of some pontoons with you folks, and even one from my new book as well. So You love my back wall. Thank you. I have all of these really cool. I can't take too much credit though. They're my boyfriend's. He collects records, so he puts them on the wall there. Okay, well, let's see. You guys like the wall? Are we not wanting to share? That was amazing. I just want to say I love your background. Very cool. Okay, that's fine, folks. I hope that you created something that you enjoy. You know, when I first started doing spoken word, I was very nervous. Literally, look, this is my first spoken word poetry book. Okay, this is the first one. Look, this thing, right? Look, I wrote like in pencil, like, oh my gosh. But I went to my first ever open mic like this. I kid you not. Words, poems. Okay, bye. Look, and that's okay. We all have to start somewhere. You know, I would sign up like first or second on the open mic list. You know, and I would keep my book in front of my face until I was, you know, confident enough to where I kind of went here. And then I was here. And then I just kept the poem like on the page and then kept it in my hand right here. And then it went to my side and then no book at all. So it's a process, and just give yourself grace, you know. But I do really encourage you to read this poem out loud. So if you have someone that you really trust and you feel comfortable with, please share this with them out loud. Or even just out loud to yourself in a mirror. It's really powerful. And I think that you will feel that as you express what you've created from your experience. Okay. So thank you all so very much. Now we're going to go into some poems. And I'm really excited to share these with you because basically what I'm doing is I'm going to read you the original poem. And then I'm going to read you how I turned it into a pontoon, okay? So you're going to be able to see how we can give old work new life. And even if you don't consider yourself a poet, even if you just like to write on a blog, or even if you just, you know, maybe you write some cool captions on your Instagram, or, you know, you had that essay that was due last semester that, you know, you got a good grade on. All of these things are your content. So I don't want you to ever get hung up on this idea of what a poem is supposed to be. All a poem is supposed to be is your authentic experience on a page and then out of your mouth. Okay. I don't care what anybody says. That's what Miss Ayevee says. So if anybody tells you different, you'd be like, Miss Ayevee told me I'm a poet just because I want to be one. And that's right. So, all right. So this first poem, I'm very excited about. When I first really decided that I was going to be a poet for real, that I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to travel. I'm going to do engagements. I'm going to do competitions. I'm going to do all this stuff. I wrote a poem really cool called I Am. And, you know, I encourage you as well to whatever it is that you're wanting to be, whatever it is that you're wanting to achieve, write that thing down. Give yourself permission to claim it and have the audacity and the bravery to believe that you can, okay? So this poem is called I Am. I am a poet. I am not this or that or anything that one might pretend to be. I am not some fake facade or shell of a human being. I am a poet. And I am living the life I am supposed to be. I step up to this mic, rip open this flesh and bare my soul. I let every bit of it pour out of me, all my dark corners on display, illuminated for all to see. Take what you want, take what you need. These words, they no longer belong to me. I am but a vessel for you in your time of need. See, I am a poet. And my pain has set me free. I am a poet. And there is no more fear left inside of me. Thank you. That was called I Am. And so now I've taken, thank you for the class. I love the digital claps. They're so cute. So I've taken that and put it into that same exact form that we just did. And I just did the first 6 lines of the poem. So that's how I chose to do this. And so the pontoon version of I Am is, I am a poet. I'm not this or that or anything one might pretend to be. No fake facade. I am not this or that. not some shell of a human being, no fake facade. I am a poet. Not some shell of a human being or anything one might pretend to be. I am a poet. I am a poet. See, I love that, right? And I've actually never done this. I did this specifically for this workshop. And again, like even for me, I wrote this poem like 6 years ago, and it gives it new life. So even that stuff that maybe you wrote when you were even in elementary school, you know, those diary entries, you let it have new life, right? And the pontoon form is a great way to do that. Okay, so the next poem is called We Are the Same. And I love this one, especially in this space of healing and of unity, because this really does talk about the Black and Brown experience. I will, you know, say this might have some trigger warnings. So if anything does feel uncomfortable, like we talked earlier on, lead into the discomfort, or even if you just have to get up for a second to just take a breath, that's okay too, right? You got to take care of yourself. So this poem is called We Are the Same. We are the same, Black on brown violence, brown on Black hate. They keep us divided for their own safety, for their own sake. They fear us uniting, so they frame us and perpetuate our fighting. When will we wake up? The government is pouring us poison, but we just continue to hold the glass as it trickles down to our children's calcified pineal glands going dumb as they sit quietly in their class. These crooks rewrite the history books hoping you forgot where you came from. Well, have you? Shh, you can't let them hear you. They'll come and get you. Don't you know the government's listening? Everybody knows you can't be a revolutionary in this generation. Then the realization hits me like bullets to the chest of an unarmed civilian, and suddenly I am unable to breathe. But it's not just me, as the whole country screams, I can't breathe. Tears fall as rage engulfs me, frozen in place as I see the horrors unfold all around me. How can this be happening in the 21st century? Are we blind to our own reality? Are we so far gone that we can no longer hear the drums of our royal ancestry? We are the same, you and me. And if we don't unite, we will soon become an endangered species. Do you hear me? We are at war, and they are killing us while we are sleeping. Don't you remember who you are? Don't you remember? Don't you remember all those kings and queens who would rather slit their throat than be a slave on a boat? We are the same. You and me. Oh, you think because your boat went to Massachusetts and mine went to the Caribbean that they look at us different? That because your ropes hung from elm and mine from banana trees that somehow we just swing differently? We are the same. You and me, Black, brown, and everything in between. In the end, it will be us versus them, but coming together is the only way we can win in this rigged system. Coming together is the only way a new world can begin. We are the same. Thank you. Thank you so much. That is called We Are the Same. Thank you, Carlos. I appreciate that. And so taking that poem, right? So it was quite a long poem. Thank you, everybody, for your claps. I appreciate you. You know, and so I just took the first 6 lines. So as you're exploring this pontoon, remember, you don't have to just stick with those 6. Do that first 6 lines and then do the next 6 lines and so on and so forth. Remember when we first talked about the pontoon, it's a poem of any length. So I'm just sticking to the first 6 lines for time, but you can definitely continue to do that for your entire piece, okay? So the pontoon of We Are the Same. We are the same. Black on brown violence, brown on Black hate. They keep us divided. Black on brown violence. For their own safety, they keep us divided for their own sake. For their own safety, Black on brown hate. For their own sake, we are the same. That was cool. That was cool. Like when I wrote that earlier today, I was like, wow. So it's like, I don't know. I just feel like, I feel like writing, especially these older poems. Again, this poem I wrote like 6 years ago. So I feel like they have a way of being like our past talking to our present self. I know that might be kind of way out here for some of us, but that's really how I feel. I feel like those things that we create, they always speak to us in different times of our lives and different moments and different things that we're going to. So, that's why I'm such a big fan of just giving your old work new life. This next poem is called No Habla, and I am not fluent in Spanish. I was not raised to speak Spanish. My family thought that, well, first of all, my grandparents thought that not teaching my parents Spanish would give them a better chance in America to succeed. So, I was not raised to speak Spanish. I learned Spanish in school. So I am not fluent by any means, but growing up as a Latina, as an Afro-Latina who some people don't even think I look, Spanish, especially on the West Coast when they're not too familiar with what Caribbean folks look like. I had a lot of colorism. I have a lot of, folks that said some really mean things to me. So that's what this poem is about. I was born in another country. So no, I don't really know the traditional language, but that doesn't mean I'm not in touch with my heritage. You sit there and judge me, tell me I'm a disgrace, which in reality is just a perpetuated mind state that was put onto you by the Spaniards who conquered our people. So don't tell me I am not equal. I am Ina, soy Boricua. I am proud of the fire that burns within. I am proud of the blood that flows like a raging river beneath my brown skin. I love my curly hair and how when the wind blows, it just goes everywhere. And yo soy Boricua. So save your breath. I don't even care what you have to say or your questions about where, how, and why I exist. Your approval is not one of my life's prerequisites. I know who I am. I am the granddaughter of Gladys Hernandez, Clemente Vargas, Felix Aponte Martinez. I stand on their shoulders, and my foundation is their sacrifice. They left everything they ever knew so that I could have a better life. They fought for me, and now I fight for my right to exist, for an education, for a job, for my family. Please don't judge me. We are the same. Don't tell me who I am supposed to be. I am exactly who I am supposed to be. Yo soy Boricua. Thank you. I get a little choked up with that poem because I think that it's really hard to be so proud of who you are and have your own community say some of the meanest stuff to you, that can be really hard, but also how I've become the person that I am now, right? Because of that. So, we learn and we grow through that. Thank you all so much in the chat. I appreciate you all. And so this is the pontoon version of that. I was born in another country. I don't know my traditional language. That doesn't mean I don't know my heritage. Sit there and judge me. I don't know my traditional language. Call me a disgrace. You sit there and judge me, not my reality. Call me a disgrace. That doesn't mean I don't know my heritage, not my reality. I was born in another country. And there we go. It's kind of like it gets me choked up a little bit when I read those. So, but thank you all so much for holding space for me. I have just two short poems before we end today. This next one, thank you so much, Jennifer. This next one is called What If? And I really wrote it because so often we have these what if scenarios that are like the worst. The worst possible scenarios that we can create, those are the ones we think of. But in this poem, I was like, wow, what happens if we focus those what ifs on the most positive possibilities, right? Because we could easily do that either which way, right? So this is another example of changing the narrative to be more empowering and inspiring for us. This poem is called What If? What if life was simple? What if all our problems were actually opportunities hidden at the seams? What if we could achieve every dream simply by changing the way we think? What if changing our perspective could change our reality? Wouldn't that be something? What if life was simple? What if me was changed to we and we started to make a real difference in our own community? What if we could make this world anything we wanted it to be? What if there was no war? What if we all ate together and no one had to ever fight for more? What if we learned how to share? What if we treated everyone with respect? What if we made decisions together? What if life was always fair? What if all we had to do was listen to each other? What if all we really had to do was care? What if we became one family but embraced our own individuality? What if we celebrated our differences? What if we appreciated all our different colors like some cosmic sunset? What if we shined together? What if we realized that simply dreaming of the life that we want was no longer enough? What if we just woke up? What if action was now required? What if we have to grab that diamond in the rough and shine it until it was bright enough to illuminate all our possibilities? What if we knew that hope was our responsibility? What if we never gave up on one another? What if help was always returned? What if no one had to ever feel alone? What if we became beacons of light to guide our family home? What if we were the change that we seek in the world? What if we were that change? Thank you so much. It has been my absolute honor to share space with you here today. Thank you for taking the time to be here, to write, to interact, to hold space for each other, to be so respectful and compassionate. It has been such a beautiful time. Again, I am Miss Ayevee. Definitely, you can reach out, follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It's all Miss Ayevee, just like you see it spelled right there. I'd love to talk to you guys. So thank you so much. And thank you so much, UNLV. Thank you, Alex, and the Student Diversity and Student Justice Office. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you all so very much.